5:30 on the dot. Just go ahead and do a call to order. We got Mr. Baker.
Here.
Mr. Bryant.
Here.
Mr. Markowski.
Here.
Mr. Fryer.
Here.
The absent would be Ramsey and Chairman Christopher, and then McMullen's here. Okay. Recognition quorum. Let's see. Approval of agenda. We're going to move bullet point 1 under number 7, old business. We're going to move that ahead of the review of the public hearing for the review of the draft revisions. Approval for the agenda.
Make a motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, I'll go to item 5, approval of minutes.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, so let's jump in. Go ahead and do some draft revision zoning code, chapter 14.07, commercial zoning district.
There have been only 2 revisions to what you've seen previously. It had to do with what Chad brought up at the last meeting about there ought to be something in the code dealing with recreation vehicle parks. And so I've done 2 things. One is that I added recreational vehicle parks as a permitted use in C1. And that's the only place where I'm recommending that it be added, not in I1, or any industrial, any residential, or any commercial other than C1. And I've also added an accessory dwelling on any large parcel containing an existing family, single family. That's the result of the state law that basically said you had to do that anyway. And because it's an unusual situation, I didn't want to muddy up this particular section, chapter 1407, with more details about just one particular use. I'm going to section 4, chapter 1407, well, actually 1405.14. That's a new section, and that would have details, requirements for about a recreational vehicle park. That's a section where at some point it's a detailed requirement for them, and instead of putting it in the commercial section, I put it in a section where it would apply to any place where it's permitted, because at some point in the future, a future commission or council might want to allow it to be in some other zone for some reason. So that's why I'm putting it there. That's the place where I'm putting some more detailed requirements of various uses. And I did some research around the state. Probably the key finding that I found that I think is useful is that the state health department has a regulation governing mobile home parks and our recreational vehicle parks. And it's about 5 or 6, maybe 9 pages long, and it's fairly detailed requirements for any park that has more than 3 spaces, which probably would be most any recreational vehicle park. And so almost the first requirement for the city was you have to get a letter confirming that they have looked at the requirements and they have approved the layout. That means the spacing, the kind of hard surface driveways, the buffers. So that it's a 2-part requirement for these things. One is that it would need to meet the state health standard. That's a minimum. And second, any specific requirements that the city may have on top of that that's not contrary to what the state requires. And one of the things that I have seen, there's not very many cities that actually have regulations about that. So I didn't have a lot to go with. 2 of them I actually wrote. One was for Mountain View, which does have a big recreational vehicle issue. It typically is, you're more likely to find it in cities that have tourism, that are big in tourism. And one of the things that's pretty typical of them is to make sure that they aren't using that as a de facto mobile home park. So it's clearly not for anybody moving in of a trailer and establishing it as a residence. And I just put in there that it couldn't be any longer than 6 months in a 12-month period. Some cities make it no more than 3 months. You have situations, and I talked to Chad about that. I originally said 3 months, and he said, well, occasionally they have some visiting nurses who are in some of these parks, and if you made it too short, you'd almost force them to have to move out when they're doing something that's good for the city. So I upped it to 6 months. Most probably wouldn't tend to that. He also observed that it can be hard to enforce that. So 6 months, and this is one of those clauses that's in there in case it's needed. But it gives anybody who's an applicant for a building permit or a design permit to know on the front end that this pick up to do that. I also had put I thought it was a good idea to have some specific setbacks for these, because I didn't want, if there was a commercial type of use that was part of the park, like laundromat, restrooms, anything like that was commercial, I didn't want it to be available to anybody outside the park. So I didn't want it to be built with access from the main street that it was located on. It could only be accessed from inside the park. That was one thing that I thought was important. I also thought that there ought to be some buffer from the development itself, especially perhaps over and above what you might normally get in C1, but not extensive. That's pretty much what I haven't gotten yet is a feedback from the city engineer, because I wanted to make sure that whatever we put in this standard complies with whatever the city requires for paving in particular. I don't know if a pad should be 4 inches thick or 6 inches thick or 2 inches thick. I leave that to the city engineer, and until I hear back from him on that, I don't have, this is just typical of what I'm seeing in some other places.
I just think we ought to just refer back to the design, street design thing.
I don't know.
I think we should.
Is there a pad?
There's not necessarily a pad, but there's standards for design from a local street up to an arterial.
I was wondering about how many of parking lots.
Well, pads and the street inside the park.
Right, when I'm saying pads are typically a different construction. We don't typically asphalt for pads.
But I want him to look at what we put
Okay.
here to make sure he's comfortable with that.
Okay.
No, I was gonna ask, do these specifics on like the pad and the minimum width and length, does that match with the health department? Do they have that information?
I think, I can't answer the question, but I think it does. And I think what I would suggest to Damon is check against, I sent him a copy of the state regulation. I said, check against that, and if you're comfortable with that, we can use it, or if you want something different, we'll put that in here. We can always go higher, but we shouldn't go lower.
Right.
I don't see anything here about roads. That's not what they're dealing with. They're dealing with refuse, plumbing, service buildings, electrical distribution, sewer disposal, water supply, environmental. I don't see anything.
Yeah.
Each traffic and/or parking lane should be a minimum 10 foot.
Well, that's state health rules.
Who's in the health department?
Oh, on Hill Park rules? Is
That's
that
right, what they're concerned about are the health issues.
Right, there's no.
Right.
And we have a couple of gentlemen here who are interested in this subject. Do you have any observations or suggestions for us?
Only on your concrete pads, 4 inches. Your concrete pads where they park the RV, at least 4 inches. Because sometimes you have some big double pushers, big motor homes, and they are extremely heavy. So I had one of mine bust, and I do have 4 inches, but it was his fault because he drove off my pad into the dirt, and he pulled back up on it. When he did, he had pushed the dirt down about 4 inches, and when he pulled up on the pad, it popped it, it broke it.
Joe here's been in business for what, 8 years, 7 years, something like that. If any changes are made and for whatever reason we're not compliant with the health code regulations, are we given an amount of time to become compliant, or will there be an inspection? Are we?
I mean, the other part, can do that. We're not good for it.
I'm ignorant to all this.
Yeah.
I'm ignorant to all
You
this.
clarify where he's at, so they.
Yeah, I have the RV park behind Halls. Well, yeah, we done all the state regulations. I had the engineer firm in Searcy. They've done all the drafts. They designed everything. So they went by the very rules you guys have been talking about. So everything was examined by the city council, and water department was involved, sewer, and everything was according to the codes that they had to go by, which is on the state level. And so everything is there. Now you're talking about road, all that was considered, different sizes of campsites, how far apart they are. All that was done. We're 20-something feet, 28 feet between campsites. Our road is, for driving in and out, is like 30 feet. You can easily pass, you know, going in and out. So all that was considered when we built it. So we're within state, all the state regulations you guys mentioned, we're there. If there's anything new that comes up, we'd like to know about it.
Have you seen a copy of the draft? Have you seen a copy of the draft?
No, I have not.
We can make sure you see one. In answer to your question, I'm not sure that I can answer it. Usually something that's not consistent with new regulations is considered non-conforming. The only thing, if I were you, I'd worry about was to make sure that you were conforming with the state regulation. I wouldn't worry as much about the city or something that's created before the law.
Yeah, is that your concern, that we would make you retroactively do stuff that's in this? Cause I mean, I don't wanna step out of bounds, but if you've already done it, this would be, you'd be grandfathered in to the city.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, we're not gonna retroactively make you do something that you did correctly at the time, but like you're saying, if it's a state regulation or health department changes something and they want you to change it, then at that point, that's out of our purview. Yeah, you guys.
The
We're
only,
just worried, you know?
Yeah.
the only reason that that's even in there is to try to get people to do what y'all did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
y'all
we're-
handled it correctly.
Not me.
Yeah,
Well,
we
you
have-
handled it correctly, you met the requirements.
Yeah, we done everything the city,
So
because.
that's the goal of that right there, is to make sure other people have to do that.
Yeah.
So
Red
if you wouldn't
involved in
mind-
all this from the top, all the way down. Red was over the water department, sewer. Red, what was it, Davis, is that his last name? So I'd like, some of you guys might have been here whenever we brought this before the board back in, it's been 8 years ago, before we started building. So we've done everything that the city required of us at the state. I suppose what we're concerned about is the limits that we're putting on individuals. Like you mentioned, stay there 6 months. That could go my way, it could be in my favor, because obviously there's times whenever I want people to get out. They didn't fit the RV park, look. They want to pile stuff up, and I don't want them piling stuff up. They look like the Clampets that moved in, and everything fell out, and I don't want that. I want an RV park to be attractive to people, but oftentimes we find that people are the very ones that create the problem. So, not everyone, but if you guys pass the rule like this 6 months, well then, I have some leverage to say, leave, you've been here too long. Whereas I had some officers come to deal with a matter in the park. I wanted the lady to leave because she started a fight. And I just want her out. She's been there way too long, felt way too comfortable, taking advantage of certain things. If it wasn't that she had a warrant for her arrest, the officers would not have taken her out of there.
Do you have any requirements of
Oh, I got all
anybody who
kinds
comes
of
in?
requirements, yeah. No disorderly, no drunkenness, no disturbing the neighbors, no, I even down to peeping toms, I'm all the way down to that, I don't, nothing. If they do something, they don't pick up the dog's food, I can make them get out of the park. But if I don't have officers backing me up on any of this stuff, I can't do anything. They become a tenant, and that's the tenant rules, that they're saying, well, you gotta go and serve a notice, get a lawyer. I don't wanna do that. And I say, look, you've been here too long, City of Batesville don't want people staying here, you gotta go. And I want somebody to back me up when I say that.
You would do me a favor, if you have any concerns about any of the things in the draft, tell Chad, so Chad can get it back to me and I can discuss it with these folks.
Right.
And because, I mean, the bottom line, I think, is that there is some demand for such facilities. We just want to make sure that they aren't de facto mobile home parks, which we don't want.
I didn't
I think
realize
I'm
there was,
speaking for y'all.
I didn't realize there was that many people interested in just staying in the mobile home, I mean, in their campers.
Oh, yeah.
They travel everywhere.
Oh, yeah, I mean, and what you're talking about is a real problem now, because if you look around, there's a lot of them that set up permanent shop. Even ones that don't live in it are permanently renting out spots and just leaving campers there.
Yeah.
You know, because these people got enough money that they can afford to rent one out.
Big deal in South Texas and Florida,
Yeah.
but that's the snowbirds.
Yeah.
But
And
here
they
we
constantly
also-
lock up a spot, so they got places they go back north and come back down, and their spots waiting for them.
Yeah.
Can the person have the option to re-up after 6 months if there's, both parties agree, or?
Well, I think like he said, this is one of those laws that you don't ever intend to enforce unless you have an issue.
Unless you have a
And
problem.
then it's your leverage.
Yeah. And that's
You
why.
have to be careful though, you need to consult an attorney, because you do run into situations sometimes where if you have a rule and you don't enforce it for somebody else and then enforce it for somebody else,
Yeah.
that can be an issue. So I would definitely encourage you talking to an attorney.
Yeah.
I
But
think
that's a personal thing.
That's a personal thing, no.
I'm trying to put down the minimum requirement that would be necessary.
Yeah.
And again, could they renew? That's almost saying, yeah, we can have a mobile home park. And the whole point of the thing is this is a recreational vehicle, short-term rental. So I would say probably not, although, again, is it enforced?
I mean, like, I'm thinking for our purposes, 6 months is a good number. For your purposes, you probably prefer more like 3.
Well, if they're like the Clampets, I don't let them stay that long.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't. If they cause trouble, if they make the RV park look trashy, I will not let them stay.
Well,
If they follow the rules, I'm like anybody else, I'm there for the money, but I also understand y'all's rules. And we wanna comply with that. If there's a limit, well, what do we do? Because like you mentioned, we got some travel nurses. Well, that's the last thing. If I tell them, well, you can only stay here 6 months, they're gonna go somewhere else, and I'll lose that business. And they're the good ones.
Can they move within the park?
yeah, I was gonna say,
And that's what others have told me. I talked to the people at Harrison, they had a great big RV park, they got like 85 campsites. They said, well, you move them from up there to down there. So it's almost like benign, because you're finding a loophole in it. I just want a nice looking RV park. I don't want trash.
And my reaction to that is, yeah, that's a loophole. In fact, I looked at Mountain Homes regulations, and my reaction is, I'm not gonna pay any attention to that. I'm surely not going to write a regulation specifying the requirements for how to do that. I'll leave that one alone. If they want to move it somewhere in the park and call it reset the time clock, I don't see a problem, but if there's endemic problems, either you or the city has a way to deal with it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm asking for. When you guys said that, and Chad mentioned this to me, I said, man, that could go good for me, but it could also be bad. So I just wanted to be here to find out just exactly what's the intent. I want my customers to be happy. I'm there to make money. And if they find out, well, they can't stay here for 6 months, and I've got these construction guys come in, they're welders, and sometimes they come in and they're some of the biggest drinkers in the world. And I have to put my foot down and say, look, guys, you can't be down here at 12 o'clock dancing around campfire with the beer men. So I do have that problem, and it could be some of the hardest working people, and then sometimes it's a family, and they got problems fighting. And so I just have to have some rules, somebody to back me up to say, hey, you gotta go. And I don't want them to be able to, what problem you mentioned, Joey, was about somebody suing. Because they get to stay, but I don't. Well, there's gonna be other factors with my rules that I'll have to play off of, like you're causing a public disturbance, I've talked to you, and you didn't comply. Well, that's reason enough for me to have you out of here. But on the legal side of it, I got, well, the Batesville also says that you can't stay here, but 6 months you gotta go. So I've got multiple outs is what I'm looking at.
Well, you've got a great reputation.
Well, I try to, I don't want.
People know when they come there. They
And the
just-
park looks good, you're doing a good job.
Well, I gotta keep it mowed too.
What's the name of the park?
It's Creekside Party Park. Keep it mowed, keep the trash picked up. I've had people come in and fill my dumpster up, I can't catch them. I don't know who they are, because the dumpster's out of my sight from up the top of the park. I mean, it's just rolling over. One time the guy picked up the trash and he dumped it, and it all fell out on top of his hood of his truck. Well, he didn't know it. He went to drive down the highway. Well, it hit the road. So now you got a traffic jam because there's trash over the highway, and they gotta get other people in there to pick it all up. So illegal dumping is another problem I've had. There's people coming in and using my trash bin because it's free. Nobody's guarding it, not today. So you got, there's no easy way in RV park or any other business, there's always what we sell. And that's some of the stuff I do too.
Thinking about the 6 months, basically time frame. You know, is that something, the 6 month time period, you are somewhat in favor of, or you want it to be shortened? I mean,
I'm okay with 6 months. 6 months or even up to a year, because whenever I have somebody that's there that's applying the rules, they're doing everything they're asked to, and they are a good tenant, I don't mind them staying longer. But if you want to put it in there so that if we need to move them out, we just have to do that.
I definitely don't think anybody's looking to police any good actors here.
yeah, and then that would be something that, so long as the compliance that we have the code, and also the compliance with the park. I mean, I'm not sure if the setup, you probably have them sign off on some type of leasing contract and whatnot. You know, I don't know if you re-up every time or however that works, but that's, so long as you're following what we would put in place, and you have your additional items that give you teeth too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
One thing that I do not do with folks, I never sign a long-term lease. It is only 1 month at a time, and I make it clear with them whenever they sign up. You pay 1 month at a time, and according to your previous 30 days, maybe I won't rent it to you. And I'd say you gotta go. If you are a troublemaker, if you're not, you're a nuisance to everybody, because either you're not taking care of your dog, or you're being loud, or whatever, you gotta go. And they get to stay there for just 1 month, if they do that. So I don't rent to people, I don't sign a lease where they get to stay for like 6 months. It's just 1 month at a time.
the thought process would be, they could just technically move the RV to a different space in the complex and be free access.
I mean, I don't know that they can technically do that. You might allow them to do that on a technicality, but technically I think you could, enforce your 6 months or whatever you put into it. You know
I
what I
was
mean?
wandering around between limiting it to 1 month as the standard, up to a year. I had settled on 3 months as kind of a reasonable thing for what I thought would work in Batesville. But Chad said, because of the visiting nurses situation sort of thing, 6 months. What I don't want to do, and this is just me, is I don't want to open up another category that says, oh yeah, you can move it within the park. What are the circumstances and requirements for how we enforce that and what we do? That's starting to get more detailed and into your business than I think the city needs to be. I would rather just have a fixed standard that we can all live with, being 6 months. And if you've got a way that you can work around that, go for it. I don't think anybody's gonna enforce it, if otherwise you're being a good business.
If anything that raises somebody's eyebrows, feel free, send Chad by, talk.
And somebody will raise their eyebrows and they will report it.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I want that because, you know, what looks good to me may not look good to other people. I might need somebody to say, hey, look, we noticed something, and just make me aware of it. I can take care of it. Because I want the RV park to be something that this city say, hey, yeah, we have a nice RV park. Just come over and stay. Because I got a lot of people here that they got family that live in California, Texas, Tennessee, and they come here to visit them, and guess what? They come in. They hop in their motorhome, camper, here they come because they got a place right here. They come in for Lyon College graduation. They got kids up here, so they have a nice place to come to. And I don't want them to say, man, maybe you don't need to go there. You need to go out for breaks. You know, I want it to be a nice place for them. So I try to do that too.
I'm sure Susan appreciates it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Check this out, let us know what you think.
Any further discussion?
No.
All right. We'll go ahead and we'll hop back up to number 6, review of draft revisions to definitions of the
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, I made just a couple of revisions.
I did have a question on the child care facility, specifically. The one that comes to mind is one that I've dealt with and I know Kyle's dealt with, is Batesville Montessori School. Their model focuses on using homes for the preschool, and I'm pretty sure they have more than 15 children, just by the way they've done things so far. I don't want to mess up something like that.
Is that a single family home?
Yes. Both of them.
Well, this definition comes straight out of a state act.
Okay.
And so.
Now, they're approved by, I mean, they.
I was gonna say, I think you're still two different things there, when you consider it that way. I mean, like you're saying, Montessori school is more of an established.
Is that a school or a daycare?
School.
Which way is it?
It's a school.
Then it doesn't make any difference.
Okay, so as long as, you're talking about a straight
A
daycare.
licensed daycare.
Okay. I did not catch that clarification on that. Okay, I'm good.
The only other change that was made was in R2, where we had changed some of these area requirements. I will make sure that they reflect what you said that you wanted them to be.
So an actual single family, 3,000 square feet, an attached single family, which could be a duplex, is 5,000. And then triplexes, we start our counter where we have the minimum of 8,000, and then they can keep rolling on and adding them on as long as they have 2,000 square feet to meet the required setback.
Yeah, and what is different is that currently it's 11,000 square feet. And now we've dropped it down to 8.
Which should be fine. I mean,
Which should
because they
be-
still have to meet the setback requirements if
Yeah.
they want to anyway. So,
But it's possible to do something on a smaller lot than was previously required. Which allows perhaps slightly denser development because you can use smaller lots now. And those are the only changes. Any questions? You can open a public hearing.
So, the 2,000 square foot per unit, where does it say it's not applied to the first? Whatever unit?
The way it currently reads is that first unit is almost a freebie, and after that, it's 2,000 per unit.
currently,
And that's because it's and above. The way it's currently worded right now is that if you have triplexes, that 2,000 feet doesn't apply.
yeah, there's actually an inadvertent loophole for right now where as long as you're not building above a triplex, you can just jump down. You can squeeze as many on there as you can possibly squeeze.
So this limits that a little bit. You could put, because if it's a triplex, the 2,000 feet also applies to the HDA.
This actually limits the amount of, this makes it more difficult to put a higher density on lots than is currently on the track.
Well, it depends. One triplex right now has to be 11,000 square feet, and you don't count the units. Now, it's 8,000 square feet plus 2,000, which is 10, which is still less than was required before.
But that unit is a triplex? You're saying the unit is defined as a triplex?
No, 2,000 per unit. And
They
the
can
unit
do
is
this one.
what's in the triplex, that's 3 units.
Yeah, so,
Unit's the whole structure.
you see what I'm saying? I mean, so the way I read that, a triplex is 14,000 square foot.
Mhm.
Do we need to add per additional unit for clarification?
We clarified it, yeah, have we?
No, it's 8,000, if you have an 8,000 square foot lot, you should drop that. But
Well, I'll
if
read
you're,
that.
if you're reading it, I see what you're saying. Why don't we add per additional unit to clarify that?
Again,
Over 3?
Over 3.
Okay.
That way there's no.
and again, the unit, you know, is more commonly going to be read as, you know, housing unit. So a triplex would have 3, a duplex would have 2. Not the building that it's in, right? So I'm sure.
Well,
Because then you,
what it reads is triplexes and above or any combination of buildings with 2 or more units. Units are in the building. So yeah, I'll change that to 8,000 square feet plus 2,000 square feet per each unit over 3.
there you go.
Good catch. I was on Quaaludes or something like that.
Well, no, I mean, we've had that conversation multiple times about how to get that squared away, to get it to be the number we want in an understandable format. Like, I don't care, as far as the number goes, like you said, everything else should keep it correct.
It should, yeah, it will.
So are we gonna still be able to open up the public hearing subject to that change?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll open up the public hearing for changes in the definitions. Anyone? All right, so I will, seek a motion to approve the changes in definitions subject to the change to the triplex, adding 2,000 square foot for each additional unit for each unit.
Make a motion.
Are you approving everything that was residential? What was residential changed the definitions, plus change to the definition of the enforcement officer, plus 1405 plus 1406. All of that was what we considered to be basically residential.
So you have to reset. So.
Okay, so revisions to the definitions
In 1402.
and revisions in 1402,
140301.
140301, 1405, 140604, 140512, 141107, 1406.
Third thing that's in your agenda packet before item 7. Well, I'll read it again. I think you got it. 140202, definition. 140301, which defines who appoints the enforcement officer. 1405, which speaks to principal structure on lot. And that's 140503 specifically. 140511, which is moving manufactured home parks from the residential chapter to here. 140512, which is adding accessory dwelling units, which is a requirement of the state law. 141107, manufactured home park, and that's changing how it's treated as a non-conforming use. 1406, residential zoning districts, and that's changing the entire chapter of 1406.
Motion for approval.
Motion carries.
Second, you close the public hearing.
Public hearing closed. Motion for approval.
Motion carries.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, we've covered commercial. Is there anything, like I say, I want to change 2 things.
Sexually oriented businesses.
That wasn't in commercial.
Not really.
That's industrial. Well, and
I think did we not go through everything on the commercial, and recreational vehicles?
like I said, check myself out. We added a definition in 140202. And that was to create a definition for recreational vehicle park. We did not take that, we did not amend that as part of residential. So we hadn't touched that one yet. And to add a section of recreational vehicle park. Again, we're at the point where we're in discussion. We could schedule a public hearing for changing 1407. 1407 is where simply we put a chart in there instead of all the verbiage that we had before. And the only change we actually made to it in 1407, and in your packet, that's at page 12. We added recreational vehicle parks. I'm reluctant to adopt this before we have established what we want the standards for a recreational vehicle park to be. So I'm not recommending a public hearing on this just yet. I think we need to settle on that first. But that and the accessory residential dwelling, that has to be an anti-zone where the lot already has one, or a single family, and that's it. And the industrial. Here's another case of where it was specifically spelled out, it is specifically spelled out in the code right now that it is permitted by right in, double check this. It is permitted by right in I-2. But it also has the sexually oriented business requirements in I-1. But it doesn't say it's permitted. It just kind of infers that it is. So I thought, let's clean that up, and instead of having that long section about sexually oriented businesses in both places in industrial, let's move it over to section 140513, where we get more specific about certain uses and have it one time. And on our chart, show it as permitted conditionally in I-1 and by right in I-2. Because it sort of kind of says it's permitted in I-1, but it doesn't really say that point blank.
Do we have I-2?
Mm-hmm.
So where are we putting anything in there as far as where it's allowed?
On page 17, in the pink, sexually oriented business right above other.
Alright, so we're basically saying, just so I can get this right, we're not going to allow something that would be a store that would sell sexually oriented items specifically, anywhere. But if they want to manufacture them, we would allow that in certain
No.
industry.
What it says, if you look at the detailed stuff, page 816, that says basically which of the sexually oriented businesses are permitted. So we don't go into detail in industrial. The only thing this is saying is that...
Where, on 16?
16. 16 is what was pulled from the original ordinance and what is currently in I-2 and I-1. I didn't change a thing on that.
Well, it doesn't say what it is. It just says what it can't be.
Yeah. So, but whatever it is undefined. It's permitted conditionally in I-1 and by right in I-2. It doesn't matter what kind of sexually permitted use it is.
So,
They
I
can
guess,
store, they can manufacture electrics, they can do artwork, they have awful, whatever else they can get away with, I guess.
next to a factory, potentially?
Pretty good place for one.
It doesn't matter. That's the only place that use is permitted.
I guess I'm not trying to, I'm trying to play devil's advocate about here, because it just feels like something that could potentially bite us a little bit.
Okay, so if you look at the map, there's not much.
We've managed to create a situation where it's gonna be extremely unlikely this is going to happen.
So,
Which was-
in and around the chicken plants, and in and around the city jail, so that area by Andy Edwards, all the way up to Marshall's Dry Goods. That's the only in the town, and then,
But you've got historic areas, district, I mean, with 1,000 foot, so that's, I don't know how many places.
and then north of White Drive, basically, is the only other, there's some spots out there.
So that's why I'm asking, do we have a definition of what a sexually oriented business is?
My reaction to that is you would have to change or amend the underlying ordinance that created this in the first place, not here.
Okay.
Because I don't want the zoning code to be amending the underlying ordinance.
So we need to consult the ordinance to figure out what they're specifically requiring.
And that ordinance would give them the right,
Yeah.
do we know what?
Now, I believe the ordinance specified that the only place you could do it was in industrial. along with all that other verbiage, if you wanna know more specifically about what you can or can't do, then you go to that ordinance. This just pulls out the things that relate to zoning. And I'm sure it was drafted carefully.
Well, let's stop with, go ahead, I'm just like the plain devil's advocate, I don't
Times
wanna
change.
be, I don't wanna be like a certain town that's close to us that did something similar with alcohol and shot themselves in the proverbial tax dollar foot. So, you know, I'm not saying that's the route we're gonna go, but I don't wanna miss something off that we overlooked because we didn't thoroughly understand what it was.
I was around shortly after the council voted on this, and within a year, somebody wanted to open one out there where that tourist information center is at the curve. And I can remember Chad saying, can you believe it? We did this just in time.
All right.
And my sense is that we could schedule a public hearing on this. I don't think there's anything that's new or different in here that would cause a problem unless you see something.
Do we wanna schedule a public hearing, or we wanna go back and just do 1407, 1408 those and
What
do
did
it
they
all
want
one
that
time?
time? Is there, can we not, I mean, the only outstanding item we have on this is,
How's the council gonna take if we unload 4 or 5 of these on them at once?
Yeah, I think it's fair to break it up. Damon sent me that they received the Landers development Thursday, and he told me it would be on the agenda for December, so.
Plain language.
I'll try to let them look at it.
We've got that Friday, and
when's the December meeting? Is it the first?
first Monday.
Well, December is really weird. December
Yeah.
first is on a Monday, right
Yeah,
after
you and I both won't be
Thanksgiving.
here.
Yeah, I won't be here.
That's the first.
That's all right. May?
I won't be in the country.
You won't be in the country, but.
Oh, the bank will do that night before then.
You won't be there.
Yeah.
You won't be here.
I gotta make an appearance there. Okay.
But they want to push that,
Well-
that's kind of an important.
Tell you what, once we finish this stuff, you can decide when the next meeting will be. That's other business.
Well, cool.
My question is, are you ready to schedule a public hearing whenever we meet next?
I think we should. And honestly, on this other one, we have one outstanding item, which is just some people that we're asking their opinion on that should get back to us. If they don't get back to us within the next couple of weeks, then we move forward with what we have.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we wouldn't schedule a public hearing on that as well. I mean, the worst thing we'd be doing would be making one slight amendment here, there to discuss it.
Well, and believe it or not, I think we have been prone once in a while to defer public hearings to another month if we're not ready.
Yeah.
And you could hold the public hearing, and after hearing public comments, you could say, let's not act on this just right now. Let's think about this for another month. As long as you've held one public hearing on it, you're safe.
Okay. I think we should.
Form on the first of December.
Well,
He's gonna be out.
Well,
we'll discuss
he
that
could be
again.
the
I
only
really
one
think.
here, and he could hold the public hearing, but nobody could act on it.
Yeah. We probably did just need to discuss not moving it to the following week.
There is one more item before we do that. And that's changing chapters 1413, 1420, and 1428. That's just getting rid of them. One of them is the severability and effective date, and that column belongs to an ordinance, not to the code. Other is building setback lines, which was adopted in the 50s, which were superseded and are no longer applicable, but they're still being carried, and the mobile homes, which we don't allow, and have since superseded that one too. So this is housekeeping, that's just get rid of stuff.
Okay.
Do we, well, we could have a reference to those anywhere if we have to refer back to prior. I know
we don't, I mean, not necessarily we're moving forward with these new changes, but if something is read and seen, and like, oh, well, this is based off of what was done in the fifties and whatnot, we're gonna have that anywhere in visibility, we have to refer to the old code.
And any ordinance that has been adopted since then, like with the zoning ordinance that included mobile home parks, automatically superseded an early ordinance. There was a repealer built in most of those ordinances, so that would have taken care of that. The problem is that when the municipal league has done this municipal code, what they did is, here's a list of all the ordinances you've ever passed. It includes something that requires a crossing guard at the railroad tracks on Central Avenue. That's in their code. And it has stuff that was adopted. It is not the details of what was adopted. That's what our zoning code does. It's the details. I need to get rid of stuff that has been superseded, that no longer applies because it has, a repealer got rid of them in the first place.
So does this need a public hearing as well for the review? Okay.
We can,
And the public hearing could be all three of the sections, commercial, industrial, and this, all in one swell hoop.
That is what
As long as Chad advertised it that way clearly.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
we need to make a motion for a public hearing for, bullet points, well, 1, 2, 3, being draft revision zoning code chapter 1407, commercial zoning districts, revision zoning code chapter 1408, industrial zoning districts, and the proposed deletion of current chapter 14.13, 14.20, and 14.28.
Make a motion.
Second, all those in favor?
I don't think that would be too much for the council to do.
So you get basically, depending on events, 2, maybe 3 submissions to the council. But
Yeah.
these last 3 are pretty minor.
We have a form now. If it's gonna
Yeah.
be December.
That's 4.
That will be probably,
Maybe we have.
yeah, that should probably be the 2.
We've got a realtor back at the first of December, so that's what's not.
Oh.
Would it be out of line to advertise and push it to the next one?
Yeah, you can do it.
I would have gone back.
Still for council.
Okay, I would,
Is that,
do we need to make a motion to do that, or just?
Because council's gonna be dealing with budget stuff in December. So, if you hold the public hearing on the, I guess, 8th, no problem, because it'll go to the council and they won't take it up until January at the earliest.
I just wanted,
unless we have that second meeting in December, we have 2 meetings.
I just wanna make sure when Lance's project is a large project, I want to make sure we get a proper thought and as many people here get in as possible, because that's gonna be the biggest development Batesville has had in the city limits.
We'll probably have to introduce it in December and then not really vote on it until January, right?
And I don't really know what all these we're going to be looking at.
Well, I just got it Friday, and it's a big deal, and some of it's kind of confusing as to what they're doing based on what they've done. And until we get all that stuff sorted out at the staff level, it won't be ready for the commission to consider. And I hope it doesn't take too long to sort that stuff out. I don't like to hold things up, but we gotta get it right. 'Cause
I agree.
it's been confusing. Just as a simple thing, they're talking about, this is a final plat for phase 2. Well, we've already had a phase 2. And now we've got a big plat that's commercial and industrial, or no, commercial and residential, but it's called a business development. So there's some problems here.
Multiple zoning.
I mean, the plat itself looks like it probably meets most of the requirements for design, but the question is how it's set up.
For
And
what?
it has to go through staff review to make sure that all the alignments of utilities and everything else is included.
Yeah.
And to make sure that everybody understands that it's a preliminary plat, not to be filed.
Yeah, because they can't get a bond.
Yeah.
So,
Cal will also be out. Cal Frisbee was, he'll be at the, at that work. Good job.
yeah, I think we're gonna move it to the next meeting.
Do we need to vote on that?
Hmm?
Do we need to vote on the eighth?
Move the
To
meeting.
change the meeting, yes.
Make a motion to move the December meeting to December 8th, from December 1st.
I'm not me. Second.
All those in favor?
Good job.
Any further discussion on the phase two, Rivertown, or
Yeah.
any other new business?
I got something I wanna talk about. Y'all say that a lot of things need to be discussed, hashed out. I make a motion that we investigate when we should require additional engineering stuff, additional planning work being done by these developers. Set some criteria for a traffic impact analysis, say 100 predicted vehicles, peak hour, whatever, there's lots of different requirements around the country. This development, like you said, is the biggest one in Batesville, and so far, there's been no planning that's going on, except for the proposed future collector, as I said earlier, shown on the master street plan.
I think what you're asking for, well, let me back up.
Specifically
The
regarding that
subdivision
property, I'm
regulations
asking for
already-
traffic impact analysis. But what
Right.
I want to do is say that any development in the city limits that meets a certain criteria warrant a traffic study or an environmental study, floodplain study.
It already does, most of those.
It requires a floodplain analysis, which wasn't submitted with the preliminary plat.
How do you traffic study something that's not built yet?
Prediction, it's easy, that's what they are. So you estimate the traffic that whatever development you're proposing is gonna generate, you combine it with existing traffic counts on the streets that already exist, you do a traffic impact analysis, and you can say that your development will theoretically reduce the level of service on that road by this much.
So what would our
Yeah.
rationale be if it does? Consider we've already determined we don't have control. We have, if there's a development that goes in,
What do you mean you don't have control of it? What do you not have control of with
the highway
regard?
department. If the highway department deems it's going to reduce,
It's not the highway department's business, it's not a highway.
it is.
I'm not sure it's ours. I think it's them.
It is our business. It's our business as far as planning, as the planning commission. It's our duty, it's our
This one has a
responsibility.
state highway, this is a state highway. So the traffic study would be on Arkansas State Highway 69.
Yes, and that from the highway department's standpoint, yes, they should look at it. But the highway department itself doesn't have this same policy like I'm talking about because they don't want to.
So what are we wanting to study then, if we're not studying the entry point?
I would make
You
this
are studying
observation, you can't make a motion to say we should require it for this next application. What you can do is make a motion to say, bring to us a revision to the subdivision regulations that require a traffic impact study.
But that's not true. The planning commission can require a traffic impact.
Can't require anything that's not in the code.
You can require a traffic impact analysis based on the fact that this development will impact the traveling public.
Staff might be able to ask for it, but the planning commission can't require anything that's not in the code.
Yes, they can. The planning commission is tasked, its duty to require studies when necessary. It says it in our own code. It's our obligation as the planning commission to make sure that we don't permit a development that's gonna impact the traffic, the traveling public, negatively for no reason.
What are
So-
we studying on this specific
So,
thing?
okay.
Are we studying the internal, or are we studying?
You're studying White River Boulevard.
As it feeds to the state highway?
So what you would do as a traffic engineer in this situation is you would look and you would say, okay, you look at Batesville, you look at the streets, you got Myers, you got 20th right there, you got Pioneer, you're connecting to Harrison Street, Myers connects to 167, we have traffic counts on all these roads, we know where the traffic is. We actually have origin destination studies that can show you where traffic is going within the city. So as a transportation planner, somebody proposing a development like this, you can predict exactly, it's not exact, it's a prediction of how much traffic, instead of going through the light at Myers and going north and turning right, will turn right at Myers and go through here to get to anything east of that point on Harrison Street. So you can make predictions as to what this future road, how it's gonna impact the traffic in the whole city.
Okay, so
what do we do with that information?
What's your end goal here? Make the
So,
streets wider?
no, well, maybe, that's up to
I'm just asking.
that's up to the developers. And what happens is you require the developer to do a traffic impact analysis. Same thing for the Harrison Heights, apartment complex, it's in the same way. You require them to do a traffic study. They hire an engineer to come up with what their traffic impact is actually gonna be, and they propose mitigation efforts.
Do you think that's something that needs to be added to the code, that we make a requirement for any subdivision or any type of development that needs to have a traffic?
Yes, I'm saying that for future cases, that other cities around the country, that's what they do. They say, if your development stands the potential to be a traffic generator of a certain level, you know.
But what's the action item though? Once that study is done.
So you say, you don't permit this development unless it's an acceptable effect on the city.
And what's acceptable?
That's up to the council.
But I mean, this particular area would be more of a relief. I mean, it's gonna have traffic regardless, but it's a roadway that would act as a relief, and all the other ones would still have.
And that is the reason that this one is important, is because it will be a relief, whether you like it or not.
Oh, yeah, I mean, but that's.
Okay, so now does that, from a planning commission standpoint, that right there warrants that you take that into consideration to protect and safeguard the public, that you don't allow this developer to do.
How's it safeguarding the public if it's a relief? I mean, if you're having.
Because you
it's
know,
it's
you
a
already.
roadway that's not as burdened as Bryant subdivision or Bryant Second Eastern, where it's a cut through now, probably is gonna have less traffic. So it's a relief on traffic in those existing residential areas.
Also relief on Myers.
I mean, I guess I'm just trying to I understand the point of trying to get an idea of an engineering traffic count, but if it's something that we know is basically a relief cut through, or, I mean, what you say, it's, I don't know, I mean, it's.
Okay, so the core concept here is what you call functional classification. Your master street plan acknowledges functional classification. That is local, collector, arterial, freeway, right? And you can have major and minor. So you're, in an ideal system, it goes smaller, bigger, right? So you're on your local street, you're on your cul-de-sac in your neighborhood. When you come off of that street, you turn on to one that's slightly bigger, slightly better designed, slightly higher speed limit, holds slightly more cars, right? So you may be on 20th Street, right? 20th Street, where does it take you? It takes you somewhere else, like Eagle Mountain Boulevard, which would be like our collector, right? And then the main highways, 167, 69, those are your arterial. So ideally, your system feeds both ways, biggest to smallest, smallest to biggest. And so this specific case, that is recognized, what we're talking about has been recognized by everybody, that the traffic will go there, right?
I mean, it's a new road.
And so, just based on what you're gonna come up with, if you try to guess how much traffic that is, it's gonna say, oh, you don't need a cul-de-sac, you don't need a residential street, you need at least a collector, because you're gonna have to handle this many cars. So you need to meet a bigger.
So what's the definition of collector?
According to our design standards, is like 80-foot right of way.
Are you talking Howard Park
30
standards, or are you talking?
No, I'm talking
No,
about
our city has
our
a-
standards. We have extensive standards.
Yeah, we
I
got.
knew there was, but I don't know.
And so it has a typical section, a cross section of what the street would look like, the width, the curb, the sidewalk.
You saw the layout that they proposed, right?
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to compare it directly with
It's
what
two
our,
lanes in, 2 lanes out,
yeah.
for that first bid.
And I think our collector, I don't know, Rob, if you look straight.
It looks like the widest collector.
I looked at it, do I remember it? No.
Yeah, I wanna say maybe even our collector mandates 3 lanes.
I just wonder if they've not, because of this picture, I wonder if they've not already complied with what Damon asked.
Maybe, I don't know,
So,
you know, but.
Damon and I did discuss that, and we agreed that it needed to be to collector standards.
It needs to be up to collector standards, but that also means that you need to look at the horizontal and vertical alignment of it, and the drainage and everything else. You go to a whole, you get into roadway design then. Right now, they're sitting at about, 7 miles an hour. 10 maybe, when you come off the roundabout and those first couple of curves coming into the residential neighborhood. That's not, that's not, in a floodplain. Okay, so first of all, the city needs to be concerned about what he's doing to mitigate the damage to the floodplain, because that backs up in there already.
And that's why staff review is pretty critical here.
Again, but a lot of this stuff, it needs to be worked out in the planning phase ahead of the staff review, because once these consultants in the.
Damon's long range, we're not in the ground here. You get way into Damon's territory here.
No, I'm not getting, y'all, I try to explain this to Dad, that the rest of the world is further along than Batesville is.
We don't want these further.
No, you don't, but you'll get forced into it as soon as one of these people from Texas or California that knows about this stuff comes in here and sues you. I don't want Damon to lose his job any more than anybody else does, but if he's in there, you know, making decisions against his own code and not having stuff to back him up, then you can get yourself into a situation. I mean, as the city, in the planning commission, there's no need for us to. You can require these studies. They do propose remedies to this stuff all the time. God says, okay, well, you know, I'll put in a turn lane. I'll make the radius bigger. I'll have a better approach angle. I'll straighten instead of skewing it, I'll straighten it up. There's all kinds of different traffic calming techniques and remedies.
So we've already got the roundabout on one end, and where you're entering the road, you've got 4 lanes wide coming off Harrison.
Again,
And it doesn't look, by my standards, it looks like to be the widest, it looks like it's wider than what we require in Eagle Mountain.
And so,
Divided and.
considering specifically that junction at Harrison Street, that needs to be studied for a signal.
Robert, that's not his, that's the highway department's determination, correct?
Well, it would be the highway department's determination on the traffic signal warning. Yes, like they originally wanted to, like Bruno's originally wanted to request the highway department to do a traffic. But any engineer can do that same study. It's only 8 warrants. And you use these same traffic counts that I'm talking about.
What I don't want to do is set something, I do not want to set a developer up in a situation where they're told to do something yet they have zero control over the outcome of what that. If we're asking to do a traffic count on the highway, state highway, they have no control over it.
All we're asking them to do is acknowledge that they're having an impact and bear the burden themselves, which is what the law says. The developer should bear the burden.
It looks like our system's working though. I mean, we've got, these are designed to be collectors. So who's
reviewing it from the standpoint of what we're talking about?
And Damon
doesn't know anything about it.
He just put through the brand new engineered street designs. We literally looked at them 3 months ago.
And he literally himself said that he had no idea what it said.
I didn't know that conversation, really.
Huh?
Talking about the plan? Or the
plat? The street.
Plat.
Well, it's new, it's just a new plat.
Yeah.
Chad just got it.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the standards that we have set. He doesn't know what our code is to begin with, and he doesn't claim to be a transportation planner. He doesn't claim to know anything about transportation.
Okay, let's make the motion, do what you're gonna do, and we'll push it to next meeting, and we'll vote on it. That's all we can do. I don't think we can keep going in circles here.
I guess I'll weigh in. The level of service is a legitimate planning exercise.
Okay.
Generally, it's done in order to determine if the size of the road proposed is adequate to cover the area that it's serving. Whether the planning commission can require a study of that, I'm not real sure. I'd have to look at the code again just to be comfortable legally.
It happens all the time.
My other thought is that if that's something that is concerning to the commission, at the time we reviewed the plat, we asked Damon, did you look at this? And if we think that it is inadequate for some reason as a group, then we can ask for some documentation on that before we approve the preliminary plat. Because the preliminary plat is supposed to be designed in such a way to adequately serve the community that it's designing. But whether we can, I want to be real comfortable.
The planning commission is obligated to undertake whatever studies necessary.
I want to read that.
Read it, pull it up now.
I need to go home and eat.
We're proposing that this is a requirement that we put on the,
It's already, the requirement's already on the developer. The developer's already tasked with.
They're out.
but we have to,
All right, so I've got a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Okay, now second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, aye. All right, see y'all on the 8th.